Hi, I'm going to talk about some of the myths and misinformation about carpal tunnel syndrome. My name is Hilma Volk and I'm the creator of Carpal Tunnel Master. It's a self-help program for carpal tunnel syndrome and false carpal tunnel syndromes. So, myth number one, and let me say this, information and misinformation travels around the internet just as fast, and a lot of websites copy information from other websites, and so what is accurate and what is inaccurate gets blurred because you can have inaccurate stuff and accurate stuff on the same website at the same time. And one of the biggest myths and misinformation is that carpal tunnel syndrome travels up the forearm. No, it does not. It's actually the opposite is true, because it's true that people having carpal tunnel syndrome may experience forearm pain, but it's the tightness in the forearm that most of the time is creating the carpal tunnel syndrome. Why do I say that? Well, when you're doing any type of repetitive use, let's say you're playing a musical instrument, you're typing, whatever, doing something in a factory, the forearm muscles are what move the wrist and fingers up and down. It's the same is true if you're gripping something hard, or if you have to hold on something really tight. It's the forearm muscles doing the gripping. The fingers themselves are not doing the work, because you can prove it to yourself. Just squeeze your upper part of your forearm and open and close your fingers. Now, the parts of the forearm muscles kind of attach on the inside. If your palm is face up, when your arm is down, on the inside of your forearm, the part towards your body, it's called the medial side, those are the ones involved in closing the fingers. And that forearm muscle goes down your forearm towards your hand, and then there's 9 on the palm side, there's 9 flexor tendons, also 9 flexor muscles, and those tendons go through the carpal tunnel. So when you're squeezing something, your forearm muscles are pulling your wrists forward, they're pulling the fingers forward, and since most of us use our forearm muscles much more than the ones, I should say the forearm muscles in the front, much more than the ones in the back, which are called extensors, and those attach on the outside of the forearm when your palm is up. Those are extensor muscles, and they go to the back and they open your hand. Well, the ones in the front are the ones that go through the carpal tunnel. Now, if your forearm is tight, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get carpal tunnel syndrome, but if your forearm is tight and you're feeling the pain there, that pain's been building up for quite a while under the radar. Usually you don't notice it unless somebody squeezes your forearm hard, especially up towards your elbow on both sides here. Then you'll really, notice it. And if it's a happy muscle, you can put as much pressure as you want on a happy muscle, and you will just feel pressure. The more unhappy a muscle is, meaning the tighter it is, the more pain or tenderness you will feel with pressure. So why is the forearm muscle pulling your carpal tunnel forward? Well, when muscles get tight, unless they're stretched out or something else happens to correct that, there's trigger points, which are muscle fibers stuck together, which shortens the muscle. There are muscle fibers stuck together, and that's called adhesions, and that makes the muscles less able to move, and so that shortens the muscle too. And when a muscle is shortened, it's going to pull, and it's going to pull your carpal tunnel forward, and it's going to make less room in the carpal tunnel. So if you've got a night splint and it's helping, then it's a good sign that that problem is in your forearm. Pain does not travel upward. Let's say you hit your funny bone, which over here, and you get pain in your elbow where you hit it, but you also get a numbness in these 2 fingers, which is a different sensation than the carpal tunnel, which is the median nerve, but this is the ulnar nerve. But anyway, you feel that in your fingers and the elbow where you hit it, but it's not traveling upward. If you hit your fingers, 2 fingers here, it's not going to cause pain in your elbow. It doesn't work that way. And the other myth is that, well, it'll keep going up your shoulder and into your upper arm. Not true at all, because there are other reasons for false carpal tunnel syndrome. And your muscles, I should say your nerves that come out of your lower vertebrae that go down your arm, they go out of your lower vertebrae, underneath your neck, underneath your collarbone, underneath your armpit, and go down your arm and your fingers. Now, if there's tightness at any of several places, it could be in between your vertebrae. It could be right here, very common one, especially with our computer use and small computers like cell phones and iPads and tablets and little bitty notebooks and that type of stuff, where people are hunched over and have bad posture. This is a pretty common one. Could be a little bit under your collarbone. Another big one is under your armpit, where the pectoralis minor muscle, which is the one that, if you're hunched forward, people who have rounded shoulders forward, they have tight pectoralis minor muscles. Or people who do a lot of bench presses or push-ups, these muscles get tight too, and they can cause a false carpal tunnel syndrome. And any one of these things can refer pain down your arm all the way to your hand, or they can refer pain to your shoulder and your upper arm. So, but carpal tunnel syndrome itself does not go upward. It's the opposite. So there's a myth there. Another myth is, you'll see in a lot of websites, what you should do is take anti-inflammatory drugs. Drugs have never, ever, ever, ever cured carpal tunnel syndrome. Whether they're prescription drugs or over-the-counter drugs, they don't help. In fact, they interfere with your natural healing process. If you want to reduce inflammation, the most natural thing is icing. There's all kinds of ways of icing, so I won't go to here, but generally you want to ice from your wrist up to your forearm by whatever means. And ice is a natural anti-inflammatory, but it also helps promote healing. Because if you're taking drugs, your body sends in natural things that help clear up problems. There's different types of white blood cells that will chew up and gobble up things that don't belong there, like dead skin cells, even pieces of metal that don't belong there, and carry them away. Well, if you're taking drugs, your brain does not know that there's a problem, and so things build up. So that's another thing, reason why you can get carpal tunnel syndrome here. As well, let's take another myth. I've heard this recently, and it's an out-and-out total misinformation. It says repetitive use does not cause carpal tunnel syndrome. Well, just because you're doing repetitive use does not mean you're going to get carpal tunnel syndrome, but it's a leading cause of carpal tunnel syndrome among computer users, musicians, factory workers, anyone who does repetitive use, because again, your forearm muscles move your fingers. But before they do, there's tiny little tendons, they're like cables, that go through hollow tubes into your fingers. Now, if you're doing repetitive work or playing music, whatever, and these go up and down, well, those tendons in that hollow tube go up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down when you're moving your fingers up and down. And there's synovial fluid in there, which is like a lubrication, but it's not motor oil. It dries out. So if you're constantly in the zone, playing music for hours at a time, typing for hours at a time, that synovial fluid dries out. And what happens when it dries out? It chafes. Just like if a piston in your engine has no oil, well, it's going to seize up your engine. Well, it's chafing, and it's causing pieces of stuff to slough off, whether it's the tendon or whether it's the wall of the sheath in there, and that builds up gunk. And as long as it's building up gunk, is going to make those tendons swell and put pressure on the carpal tunnel syndrome. Now, to prevent that, you want to take breaks. You want to get that synovial fluid back to lubricating your tendon sheaths again. And the only way to do that, really, well, not the only way, but if you're working, take a break for 5 minutes after 20 minutes of work. That doesn't mean you have to stop working. You can answer the phone or file something or go to the bathroom, do anything else, answer phone calls for 5 minutes to let that fluid come back into your hands. And it's even worse if you're typing or playing musical instrument where your hand is not in a straight line. The back of your hand should be in a straight line for the back of the forearm. Anytime it goes around corners, it's making that chafing even worse if your synovial fluid is drying out. So repetitive use can cause carpal tunnel, certainly can. Another lie I've only seen recently is computers do not cause carpal tunnel syndrome. That's not only not true, it's an out-and-out lie, because when industry stopped using typewriters and went to computers, the amount of carpal tunnel syndrome really increased dramatically. It was very unknown almost when there was typewriters. Typewriters, you might think, well, they're more difficult to use, but the fact is, with typewriters, your hands were almost always in a neutral position. You were taking breaks constantly because you had to put the paper in, you had to roll the paper in, you had to flip the carriage, and you make a mistake, you put in whiteout or whatever, and then you had to take the paper out and do whatever you're supposed to do with that piece of paper, put another piece of paper in. Now, with computers, there's non-stop typing. With a typewriter, if you type too fast, the keys would jam up, so you couldn't do that. Now you can go as fast as you want. You make a mistake, you backspace, backspace, backspace. If you have to turn something around, put something here, something there, just copy and paste and keep on going. You need to print something, just push a button. You need to file something, you just push a button and put it where it's supposed to file, and you keep on typing. There's nothing to stop you from typing hours and hours and hours. And yes, carpal tunnel syndrome is a big factor with computers. When computers were replacing typewriters, the amount of women getting carpal tunnel syndrome shot up. It's not the only reason for women, I'll get to that later, but for women especially, because they were the main factors in the typing pool, suddenly carpal tunnel syndrome among computer users was a big factor because of the reasons I just said, but suddenly books came out about using computers properly. Ergonomic websites came up on how to use computers so they're not injuring your body, both posture and your hands. Now, I once had a Hewlett-Packard computer, and it had a warning label on it. And the warning label sent you to an ergonomic site, and the warning label is about problems with computers. It was how to use your posture, how to use your chair, how to use your hands. I haven't seen a warning label on a laptop or a notebook or a cell phone or a tablet. It's just, they're not ergonomically friendly, because anytime you've got the screen and the typing platform, whether it's on screen or a separate keyboard, when they're close together, that causes bad posture, and bad posture leads to a lot of problems. Not just carpal tunnel type, but headaches and backaches and all kinds of stuff. But another myth is night splints. Night splints are a good thing because they can help you sleep better. But they're passive. They're not getting you any better. You just think you're getting better because you can sleep better. But what got you to the problem was the things you were doing actively. So the easiest way and the fastest way to get rid of your problem is not by doing something passive or waiting for somebody to do something to you, is to take action yourself. And a lot of sites you'll see will have stretches, which are good, but stretching is inefficient. It takes a long time to get results, and a lot of people give up, or else they'll force a stretch, which can cause other problems. So stretching, well, good is a slow, active thing to do. It's better than doing nothing. It's better than waiting for somebody to do something to you, like give you a pill or something that's not effective. Although cortisone does help, but it's very powerful anti-inflammatory, and it doesn't last. It might last a couple weeks, a couple months, even longer, but it goes away and then you're left with the same problem you had before, except that most doctors will not give a cortisone shot in the same place twice in your lifetime because it deteriorates muscle, fibers, other types of tissue, even bone. So if you take too much cortisone injections in the same place, that's not reversible when it affects your stuff like that. Okay, let me talk about vibration. A lot of sites will say one of the causes of carpal tunnel syndrome is exposure to vibration. Well, what does that mean? Yes, it's true, but just being exposed to vibration doesn't do anything to you. Let's say you and I were standing for hours on end on a vibrating platform. Well, that might do something to your sanity, and that might do something, who knows what, to your internal organs, I don't know, but it's not going to cause carpal tunnel syndrome. The reason why vibrating tools can cause carpal tunnel syndrome is because you're gripping them so tight. Anytime you're gripping something that's going to get away from you, and the worst I can think of is a jackhammer, but other type of things like rototillers and dirt bikes, anything you're gripping hard, that causes the same problems with your forearms, and you want to get rid of the forearms too. Now, how do you get rid of forearms tightness? Well, stretching is one way, but it's not that efficient. Actively massaging your forearms, yes, that works, except what happens is your other arm is going to get tired. And if you go to a massage therapist, most of them don't know anything about this, first of all. I didn't learn about this. I learned about this because I was having my own problems and I wanted to find my own solutions, and nothing of it was things I learned in massage school, except massage, but it's just didn't tell me why things were happening the way they were and what the mischief caused by muscles could be. It wasn't in my anatomy books. They didn't warn me. So actively doing something for yourself is the best way, and the best way is loosening it up by massage. Now, there are other things that can loosen up your forearms, but they cost money. When you have something that you can do for yourself anytime you want, and if it comes back, you know how to repeat the process, that's a good thing, because, you know, just relying on other people to do things to you all the time is not the best way. But, you know, and then a lot of doctors will immediately push for surgery, and surgery is not a magic bullet. You know, they cut one way or another this transverse carpal tunnel ligament that goes across here, and the reason you're born with it is to give you leverage. So everybody who has carpal tunnel surgery has a weaker grip. So you're not going to be able to use that jackhammer anymore. People who have industrial problems and have carpal tunnel surgery, 25% of them cannot return to the same job they had before. And it may take, well, for light duty work, it might take you 2 weeks to heal. For medium duty work, maybe 2 months. Some people never recover. It's just depending on what their job was and how bad it was when they had the surgery. But after surgery, you have to ice your arm to get rid of, ice your scar to get rid of the trauma from the surgery. You have to do exercises several times a day of different types of exercises. Why? To keep your hand from stiffening up. You have to massage the scar area to keep that from being a scar tissue area, you know, for scarring to build up. It's not the magic bullet. And the other thing is, I had someone respond to one of my videos saying they had good luck with their surgery, and only it's come now 2 years later, they've got it on the other hand, and I responded, you know, great, your surgery worked, But what did you learn? You did not learn how to prevent it on your other hand. You did not learn how to reverse it once you're getting the symptoms. You didn't learn anything. All you learned is surgery. And they were out for 2 weeks for their job as well. So why would you want to lose your 2 weeks of work, lose that money on surgery, and not learn anything? Why not keep the time that you're not losing? Why not avoid the risk? Why not avoid the risk of weaker hands? And I'm getting off on a tangent here. Now let me talk about women. Women are 30% more likely to get carpal tunnel statistically than men. And it used to be that they said, well, it's because women had smaller wrists. Well, that's not really the problem, because women have smaller everything. And some women are more likely to have carpal tunnel syndrome because of hormonal issues. Women are more likely to retain fluid, and people who are pregnant are definitely more likely to retain fluid. So some women get carpal tunnel syndrome when they're pregnant. That goes away after childbirth. I can't address that part of it, but what you can do is, because the lymph system retains fluid, is what retains the fluid. The lymph system has no pump, not like your heart. And to get rid of fluid, and your lymph system is carrying waste products away. And you want that to be healthy. What does move the lymph around your body is the movement of muscles and gravity. So if you're retaining fluid, first of all, if you're not pregnant, find out why you're retaining fluid, because that's very dangerous. But often it's a lack of exercise too. So you want to get doing exercise. And if you're pregnant, do as much exercise as your doctor allows. And if you can't do exercise, at least raise your arms and move your fingers up and down, because it's, again, the fluid is moved by the movement of muscles. Again, you're moving your forearm muscles and gravity. So you want to have your arms up high. You can be laying down, sitting, whatever. And if you're pooling muscles, if you're pooling fluid in your legs and your ankles, move those feet. Walking's great. If you can't walk, at least move your feet up and down, whether you're sitting or, better yet, lying or reclining, whatever. Get those muscles moving, help that lymph get pushed out. Another reason women are more likely to have carpal tunnel syndrome or other problems is because it takes more effort for a woman to do things than a man. Let me just clarify that. An average man is stronger than an average woman. So if you take an average man and an average woman and they're picking up a 5-pound weight, both can do it pretty easily. But the amount of exertion that the muscles of a man uses is much less than the muscle exertion of a woman uses, even though they can both do it fairly easily. So when I was doing massage, I was a massage therapist for 23 years, and people would ask, which is tighter, men or women? And generally women were tighter. Unless a man was doing a lot of physical work, he was tighter. Or a woman was just a princess and didn't have to do anything, she was looser. But generally speaking, a woman has tighter muscles than a man if they're doing any kind of physical work, including just household type work. So that's another reason why women might be more prone to carpal tunnel, besides the hormonal issues. Anyway, I've gone on for way too long here than I was planning to, but my name is Hilma Volk. I'm the creator of Carpal Tunnel Master, and it's a self-help program. It's only $47, and you pay for that once. It's cheaper than 2 co-pays to a doctor, cheaper than I used to charge for massage. And the reason I could be an authority, as it will, on self-help for carpal tunnel is because I've been through that road before. Carpal tunnel syndrome is also a hazard for massage therapists, and I was looking for my own solution. And when I heard people say that, well, I'll just wait until it gets so bad that I'll have to have the surgery. Well, that just broke my heart. Because I figured, no, you can do something about it yourself. Don't wait that long. This is Hilma Volk from CarpalTunnelMaster.com. Check out my other videos on things like proper use of a keyboard, how to make a quick and easy holder for your laptop, make a quick and easy wrist rest for your mouse, and other good stuff. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, like, all that good stuff.